Thank you everybody for joining us. We're just going to start right now. Thank you for joining Tourism Burnaby's Social Hour. We used to do this weekly and now have kind of moved this to every second week to allow us to gradually phase back into the work world. That, as we mentioned, some of you might have caught that BC is heading into phase 3 of reopening and recovery. So we're definitely happy about that, which means that we can now travel within BC, visit various cities and towns that are welcoming us and bringing in some of that local dollars back to tourism and hospitality that we're looking for. Just wanted to let you all know that we will be recording this session. So for any of your colleagues or friends that are interested in this session and couldn't make it, this will be posted on our YouTube, Tourism Burnaby YouTube channel, and you can send out the link afterwards as well for that. My name is Alice Wong. I'm with Metropolis at Metrotown as the marketing coordinator. I've been with the Tourism Burnaby Connect with Burnaby group for quite a while now, about 6 months or so, and we're happy to be here offering these sessions to you and throughout the community here in Burnaby as well as across Canada. With us today, we are discussing perspectives and resources of the new tourism for new tourism graduates. With this, we have a great panel of speakers here. Basically, we'll get started with introducing them. We have 3 BCIT tourism students, new graduates, that are with us, Maria Bushmin, Daniel Chang, and Maddie Lemieux. We also have BCIT here in Burnaby, the program head, David Tikkanen. David's in charge of tourism management here at BCIT. We have Andrea Hinck, Director of Industry Training at GoToHR. Joe Baker, Systems Leadership and Integrated Strategy Advisor for Ontario Tourism Education Corp, or OTEC for short, the Workforce Innovation Group. And he's also the former Dean of Hospitality, Tourism, and Culinary Arts at Centennial College. We also have Anita Bhamra, Professor at Centennial College, Director of Learning and Development at Commercial Solutions for You. So between our speakers and our graduates, we have quite the diverse panel from both the East Coast and the West Coast, and we're looking forward to hearing from them shortly. We're going to start actually with a few housekeeping notes. The housekeeping notes being that please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat box so that we all kind of get a sense of where everybody's from. As well as if you have any questions, please feel free to type that into the Q&A box or use the little raise your hand button as well, and we'll get to the questions and answers throughout the session and most likely at the end of the session as well. This is in a webinar format, so you'll basically only be seeing all the faces of those who are speaking with us at the panelists as well. I'm going to turn this over to Seth Lee from Tourism Burnaby.
Yeah, thanks, Alice. Yeah, I just wanted to mention, you know, we've been hosting social hours for 16 weeks, and you know, we've really tried to maintain a very unique way of, you know, being very broad in terms of topics. And this week came about, you know, actually as a result, you know, we had a consulting project with the 3 BCIT students, Maria, Maddie, and Daniel. And, you know, we talked about the need to kind of showcase, you know, how the young professionals and the emerging professionals are, you know, dealing with the pandemic and how that's affected their, you know, both work, professional, and, you know, even personal, right? And so I think this is really a good opportunity for us to explore that. And, you know, I hope that, you know, we can kind of have a great discussion around the topic of, you know, how we can help our young professionals, but it's also continuing kind of the labor force in hospitality and tourism. I think that's a key area that is, you know, discussion that is needed. So I will hand it back, you know, off to Alice. I also wanted to acknowledge, you know, that we, you know, although virtually we are gathered on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people. So I just wanted to add that in. Alice, so let's go for it.
Thank you. So to kick things off and start things off, let's start with a quick introduction. I want to kind of hear from the panelists where you currently are in your roles for the graduates, maybe where you are in terms of now that you've graduated, what's happening right now, and how do you feel about the current tourism sector right now? And maybe I'll start with the students. So maybe Maddie's on my screen, so I'll pick on Maddie first.
Hi, so I'm currently actually at Tourism New West. Today was my second day. I am the Information Service Coordinator. So far we've been working a lot with the website, getting things updated and coordinating our messaging, especially going into phase 3 now, planning what our strategy is going to be. It was definitely a stressful time coming out of BCIT, not really knowing what was going to happen and what jobs were available. But the instructors from BCIT have been super, super helpful with showing us opportunities, which is how I ended up at Tourism New West. So I'm super grateful for all their help. Maria, do you want to talk about yours?
Sure, yeah, I'll talk about my experience. So I was lucky enough to continue to be hired on by BCIT Applied Research. I work with the SMART department. So not totally tourism, but I have been helping them a lot with moving online, planning webinars, connecting with key stakeholders to do all these kind of Zoom webinars and work on some of their communication stuff. We work primarily with energy management and microgrid systems. So I definitely was looking, once I graduated, I was definitely looking for more of a tourism job, but it seemed like obviously the industry and the world had other plans. So I'm still happily with BCIT Applied Research and will hopefully start looking for more in the tourism industry starting around October.
Hi, so I'm Daniel, and much like Maria, I originally wanted to get a job in the tourism industry, but right now I am the newest sales and marketing coordinator at Coastal Off-Road, which is a local company that specializes in off-road armor for 4x4 or off-road vehicles. And it's bittersweet because I am happy with the opportunity. It's a bit of a newer company, and I think our instructor, our digital marketing instructor, Aaron Whittle, would say that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. So it's a good opportunity for me to show what I can do as significant and yet measurable impact. I think one thing I learned throughout my life, regardless of schooling or career or anything like that, is that the best feeling that I could get was making somebody else happy. And I think in the tourism sector or industry, that is done by creating an experience and through the just creating experience for the customer and making them happy that way. And I think that's something that I'm really going to look forward to getting back to, and something that drives me to eventually want to get back into the tourism industry. Thank you.
Thanks. Don't give up there, Daniel. Hang in there. I think it's great you're picking up some experience elsewhere and then hopefully bringing that back into tourism. I'm going to go with Joe next, out east.
Great. Hi, everybody. I really enjoy these public speaking opportunities, but it is very strange to be doing it so far at a distance. Can everybody see me? I feel like you're still on the screen there. No? Good?
We got you.
Okay. So I am currently working for an organization called OTEC. We are the Ontario Tourism Education Corporation. And what we are is a human resources organization that specializes in training and education in the tourism space. I just joined that team to contribute to the pandemic recovery for first the Ontario tourism industry and then more broadly across the country. And before that, I was working at a college in Toronto called Centennial College as the Dean of the School of Hospitality, Tourism and Culinary Arts. And prior to that, I worked at George Brown College, also in Toronto. And prior to that, I work in the restaurant business. And I tell you all of that because careers in the hospitality and tourism industry are so extraordinary and dynamic, and you can really do whatever it is that you want to do as long as you have patience, as long as you have perseverance, and as long as you have a dedication and a commitment to your own development. Look forward to sharing more with you.
Thank you, Joe. We'll go with Anita next, out east.
Thank you, Alice. Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. This incredible honor in sharing an exchange of impactful conversations with each of you. So my name is Anita. I've spent a bit over 16 years in hotels, working for brands such as Delta Hotels, IHG Hotels, the Radisson Hospitality Group. Currently, I am a professor at Centennial College, working and collaborating with students in the Hotel Operations Management Program and the Special Events Program. If it's one thing I've learned traveling through my journey, and I'm going to be excited to share even more what I've learned, with over 16 years of being in the tourism and hospitality industry, is change is the only constant and a great test on how we adapt and reinvent ourselves during times like this in our industry. And we have seen some great examples on how some companies currently in our industry are being pioneers and innovative during these challenging times. And I think that's key right now. And I look forward to diving into a deeper discussion on this call about, you know, giving some inspiration to these brilliant minds that are going to be entering in or have already entered into the industry. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita. Next, we have David from BCIT.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a crazy year for sure. I think we've all experienced an unprecedented spring for the industry, and just you know, as an example, normally towards the end of the term, I'd be getting calls from industry saying, "Oh, I need more BCIT grads. You know, we want to hire more people. We need more people. Do you have anyone who wants to work here or work in this sector or work there?" Didn't get that this year. You know, it was a lot of people being laid off, and companies, you know, complete hotels closing in downtown Vancouver, or companies putting people on reduced hours or reduced salary. So a very different spring than we've experienced. And then, you know, thinking about the last you know, 30 years I've worked in tourism in British Columbia, I've never seen a time like we're currently in. Like, this is unprecedented. But I think the industry is incredibly resilient, and it's already, you know, I was looking at some research this afternoon about travel intentions, and people want to travel, right? It's just innate in human beings that we want to travel and we want to explore. And so it is going to come back. We're seeing, you know, in Asia already, we're seeing a uptick in bookings in China and Australia, New Zealand. It's starting to spread to Europe. They're starting to hold conferences again on a more limited scale. So I'm feeling positive. I feel bad for our grads who have, you know, recently come into probably the worst job market in history, you know, that we can remember at least. But I'm confident that it's going to turn around. I think that, you know, this year is going to be a tough year for the industry, but 2021 will be a solid rebuilding year. So I'm optimistic, but I know that there's been a lot of change, and my heart goes out to the students and other people who are underemployed right now.
Thank you, David. We also have Andrea from GoToHR.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for having me on the call. Yeah, I work for GoToHR. So we are a nonprofit organization, and we support employers in the tourism hospitality industry, and we provide resources and guidance and support around human resources, health and safety, recruitment, career awareness, and as well we have a job board which where tourism and hospitality employers can post their job postings. And yeah, as David said, it's quite a challenging year. I just looked at numbers recently. From February till April, we lost in BC about 140,000 jobs. But that has luckily now slowly, as David said, it would take some time to recover. It has kind of picked up a little bit. We added 20,000 jobs in May. So I think, as you mentioned, the tourism and hospitality industry is very resilient, and we will recover, but it will be a bit of a slower pace than we might like. And I think there's still opportunities out there for graduates to look for positions. We've definitely seen on our job board an increase on postings. It was pretty meager a couple of months ago, obviously, all-time low. But over the last little while, we've seen a weekly increase on job postings. And now with having moved into phase 3 today, officially, I think, of the restart phase, a restart plan that now more hotels gonna open, more businesses will be able to open the doors and they're ready to welcoming guests back, and they need staff. So I just had a couple of industry employers on the call earlier today, and they're really looking for people to come back, for new team members to join the team. So I think there are opportunities, but it's a matter of what's the pace of where that's all going to happen in regards to the development, I think.
Thank you, Andrea, for your introduction as well. So that kind of segments into my next question, which is due to the last few months with the pandemic, and obviously, as David had mentioned, it is a tough time for new graduates to come into this type of job market. Perhaps you could provide a little bit of insight, and maybe I'll go with you first, Andrea, in terms of what does the next 6 months look like in terms of employment opportunities? You mentioned that there is kind of an uptake in the last month. So what are your forecasts on what's going to happen in the next 6 months?
Well, good question, Alice. If I would have a crystal ball, that would be super helpful. It is difficult to really forecast this because there's this balance of how businesses be able to start up again and how busy they're gonna be. It's even for them, it's a little bit difficult to forecast. If you've been able on a regular year to forecast, okay, this is our busy period in the summer, this is where our numbers gonna be in the fall, this is how much business more or less we do in the winter. But right now, it's this unprecedented territory where it's really challenging to even make a forecast. Depends on consumer confidence. People, as they've mentioned, are definitely ready to travel again, but at what pace that's going to develop, that's really not that easy to forecast. People have the appetite to travel, definitely domestically. For example, Destination BC is doing a great job on their marketing campaign and promoting local and in your own backyard travel, or now moving forward into kind of more near communities within BC. So there's a lot of marketing effort which is happening to support businesses. And then there are a lot of staff members who decided over the last few months not being able to work. They might decide not to go back into the tourism hospitality industry, or change the sector, or they're not comfortable quite yet to come back to work at all. So I think there's so many variables which need to be considered, but I think there is still an opportunity for jobs out there. There are new jobs out there. I mean, the job market and the landscape looks totally different now than it did like 3 months ago.
Thank you, Andrea. Maybe Joe can provide a bit of insight on how the market is in Toronto in comparison, and whether there might be some opportunities for new graduates out there versus here, or vice versa in the next 6 months.
Absolutely, very similar challenges across the country, but I think these are becoming the most optimistic times we've had over the last few months as things start opening up. I think when you look forward, especially when you look at the health experts and what they're saying, unfortunately, we will have to get good at opening and closing over the next few months and potentially the coming years as this pandemic ebbs and flows, and as we put systems in place such as vaccines to keep everybody safe and healthy. But that being said, exactly as you mentioned, this is a very global industry, and okay, so we can't travel around the globe right now. We can certainly look locally for work opportunities. Don't forget that whatever province you're living in right now, even if there are travel restrictions across province borders, there are a lot of operators that are working all around in various different segments, and I encourage everybody to be flexible and open and keep your head on a swivel and look for opportunities.
Maybe I'll pass this part on to David and Anita. Maybe David first for this one, but with this new norm and the way that the industry is working in terms of a lot of jobs are now working from home, how do you see this affecting the tourism and hospitality in terms of jobs for new graduates?
Well, I think one of the thing I'm most worried about is that we're going to lose a bunch of people to other industries this year, because they're, you know, a BCIT grad unfortunately comes out quite well-rounded and trained in a lot of general business principles. So they can seamlessly, as we've learned from Daniel, move into another complete industry and apply the same, you know, approach to education that he's gotten into a different field. And I think we'll want to make sure that we can attract him back, and that so when the economy recovers for tourism, that, you know, we're going to be having to reach out to people who are now in other industries because they found employment in other areas. So that's going to be, you know, is going to be tough. I think it's going to be a challenge for people looking for work in tourism for the next 6 months. Like, it's not going to be easy. I know that on the meeting side and the event side, there's been some interesting research coming out, and a lot of companies are really postponing, you know, large investments in travel and in gatherings until the new year. So they're just kind of saying, okay, 2020 is done. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do those meetings and events. And so it's going to be a pivot for the industry to local. So it's really going to be a local, hyper-local focus, and people are going to be spending a lot more time in neighboring communities. And I think people are going to want to experience more of Burnaby in terms of being more local and not going into the downtown city center cores, into the large attractions. They're going to want to go into the smaller attractions, more of the organic stuff in communities and smaller organizations. I saw some interesting facts where it was a travel intention survey, and people were looking at, like, hey, what kind of products and services are you going to want to use in this sort of pandemic world? And there was a spike in interest of people wanting hotel accommodations from global brands because they felt comfortable in the standards that were going to be in place and offered by a global brand. And there's also a very dramatic spike in boutique and independent hotels, people feeling that they want that local connection to the community and to give back to the local community and support local businesses. And then there was also people interested in sort of, you know, Airbnb style accommodations as well, because they wanted to, they would feel safer in that environment where they could cook their own meals. But the most dramatic increase was the people with preference for large international branded hotels, and then also independent boutique style hotels. And so very strong gains in both of those at the expense of Airbnb-esque accommodation. So I think that's kind of interesting. And I think that people are going to want to stay away from crowds, right? And what we might see, my prediction a little bit is, I think we're going to see a flattening of the peak season in British Columbia this year. So it's not going to be quite so dramatic a peak and then drop off in October. I think it's just going to more continue on as people are going to take vacations and time away across the province throughout the year, because it's getting quite difficult right now to find any accommodation in the traditional resort areas right now. So in BC, because a lot of places are full, or full to the capacity which they feel comfortable accommodating guests at this point.
I think that would be kind of great as well, David, to kind of add to that we already in June, and lots of business are only kind of opening now or slowly getting back on their feet, that we've been able to extend the season. It's not a hard cutoff for Labor Day weekend or end of September, but we really have the opportunity to build these experiences for visitors in October, which in September, October is beautiful here in BC at least. And the weather generally is absolutely gorgeous, and across lots of other provinces too. But Ontario maybe gets a little bit chilly in October, but we definitely have an opportunity to push the season out a bit further and introduce people to this so-called shoulder season, where there's still so many opportunities to do outdoor activities, to visit places in communities, and give an opportunity for businesses to do well and keep their staff on payroll longer, rather having to lay them off right after the peak season.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, David and Andrea. Anita, would you be able to provide us with some of your insights on how things are in Toronto in terms of tourism hospitality, and what the new norm is like with working from home, whether or not this is something that new graduates should also be anticipating in their if they find a job?
Yeah, what I think is, and I'm having a lot of conversations with our students and doing a lot of mentoring because they are feeling very vulnerable during this time, and how they will step into the new world of hospitality and tourism, and how will they adapt. And I think it's important for graduates to empower themselves right now and make informed decisions for their future. Also be super connectors. And what I mean by that is to take this opportunity to build their network. I always say and this isn't my saying, but I've heard this in the industry for many years, is your network is your network. Use resources like LinkedIn, platforms like that to reach out and start building your network, and, start practicing virtual interviews, because we may not go face to face in the near future for interviews. They may be virtually done. Get comfortable with speaking online and on Zoom calls, however. And I think, kudos to you, Daniel. Well done that you've, taken an opportunity to try something in the short term and maybe in the long term, and gain some experience and build your credentials. I think it's also important that if students do that, because there aren't enough jobs maybe right now in the industry, is to prioritize on your transferable skills. So when we do gain you back in the industry, that you can emphasize and focus and help market yourselves. I think that's very important. I think one thing I also want to, I realize hope isn't a strategy, but being in the industry for so many years, I feel like I was born in a hotel lobby. Global tourism has been exposed to a wide range of prices that I've been able to grow through with so many of my colleagues. And the point here is, the industry does bounce back based on my experiences, and we need to, although it's unprecedented times, we need to remain hopeful and take this opportunity to reinvent ourselves and reimagine how the new norm I say will look like and will be. And use your innovation skills, students. There's so much you can offer, and we rely and learn so much from you as well. So keep reinventing yourself during this stage.
Thank you, Anita. So I'm going to hop over to the students on the call, in particular Maddie, since she's with Tourism New West. This relates to the next question we had. Basically, with the current landscape for graduates, obviously we know it's a tough time. As such, a lot of the graduates are wondering, how can they find their next job? What do they need to do in the meantime, in between bridging between job hunting and confirming a job? So maybe Maddie can provide a little bit of insight, because I know she's been highly active at BCIT with MPI, as well as doing perhaps sharing some insight on how she ended up getting her tourism job.
Thanks, Alice. So I'd say the biggest thing is really just staying connected with your students that you graduated with, and the professors and connections that you made in industry. Obviously for me, MPI has been really the biggest help. I've sat in MPI, the BC chapter was having weekly breakfast club meetings where I got to listen in on a whole bunch of different people from all over the place and just like hear their perspectives on things that are happening with COVID, and just absorbing as much information as I can on what's happening so that I can be best educated. I also was taking an extra course at BCIT just to try and learn some more skills. HubSpot Academy offers great courses just to, learn some new things. And for Tourism New West, that was through the BCIT instructors that I heard about that. So making sure that you're staying in touch with them. And then any opportunities you hear, as now I'm employed. So if I hear any other opportunities, I'll share that with my fellow classmates and try and pass that along so everyone kind of can get a spot, hopefully.
Maybe Daniel and Maria, did either of you maybe have some insights as well to share on how you've stayed active during this time, or in between when you're job hunting as well?
Yeah, so I mean, my big thing is, as Maddie said, like staying connected. So same with me. I also attended most of the MPI Breakfast Club hours. So again, like just getting to know like different people in the industry, like what they're doing, what their perspectives are. Also, obviously, I did attend a few like the Burnaby Tourism Burnaby social hours. So just kind of continuing to just scope about and see what else is out there, because I know like obviously I was personally someone who was really interested in either a DMO or like the meetings and events industry, and obviously right now that's not doing so hot. So just looking out and seeing what other tourism jobs there are out there. Yeah, I was lucky enough to be able to pivot my position in BCIT Applied Research and get it to be a bit more focused on tourism rather than quite simply like research and presentations, because those are kind of taken away, obviously, not as many presentations right now. Yeah, so just staying connected is I think the biggest thing. And as Maddie said, there's so many good courses out there that just like expand your knowledge and maybe gain some more of those skills that could be transferred to potentially a different job for the time being as the tourism industry recovers.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely very important to stay connected. MPI is a very good example of that. But I think just to segue off of what Anita was saying earlier, it's important to just create some experience and just to create a little bit of kind of like a profile in what you can offer coming back in. And I think, for example, like to use Seth as an example, I believe he has like a science background and he was in recruitment for BCC, but now he's at Tourism Burnaby. So I feel like it's all about just getting experience that you can get, even if it's not in the tourism hospitality, especially during these times. I feel like that would be the largest piece of advice that I could give new graduates.
Thank you, guys. So we're gonna go to, I'm just looking here in terms of time just to make sure we have the time, but I think so. I wanted to go back to Andrea, maybe can share some insight into if there's any types of mentorship or internship or apprentice type programs that GoTo might have, or some sort of training programs where graduates could get some more feedback or experience so that they can make themselves a little bit more marketable in the tourism hospitality landscape with GoTo HR. Maybe Andrea can mention a little bit more about that.
Sure. I mean, with GoTo HR, we are a fairly small team. So, and specifically right now, we have such a key focus on supporting employers to restart and really managing all our resources we provide to employees. So we do not, at the moment, have any kind of apprenticeship or mentorship programs available for us per se. But to build on what everybody else was mentioning, is about staying connected and look for these volunteer opportunities. It's an opportunity to volunteer somewhere locally at one of your businesses or at the visitor center or anything which goes on, to just kind of stay connected and keep the foot in the door. And I think now it's an opportunity as well to look at your skills. Is there anything you want to kind of, as Maddie said, she's taking a course right now, is there any skills you want to upgrade on, and any courses you want to take? I mean, there is so much out there through continuing education, through different colleges and universities. With us at GoTo HR, we have different online training programs available, being around health and safety, or the Food Safe, or the Superhost customer service training suite, where it's all about creating customer experiences and communication and problem solving. So what are your opportunities right now? While you might not be able to right away start full-time in a position, what can you do to stay competitive? What can you do to, in addition to your academic career, you just kind of come through as a graduate, what other industry recognized certification programs can you take? And really get ready for the opportunities which will come up, which might not always be plentiful right now, but will become available. But getting ready for that point in time when things are kind of speeding up a bit more, and really be able to take advantage of that, and realizing that maybe the job you're looking for might not immediately be available. Can you do a detour kind of, which helps you to get where you want to go eventually, but in the meantime really looking at your skill set, how you can enhance that, and look at maybe some other opportunities. So I think as limited as at the moment it might be, I think there's still opportunities to look at that, and specifically kind of building on your current education. What else can you do which really helps you to set foot in the industry once it kind of gears up a little bit more. And Destination BC, for example, has a learning center. They have great resources. They do weekly webinars, so they record them as well. So if you check out their website, we hosted a number of webinars for them over the last few weeks. And that really keeps you to stay up to date what's going on in the industry. You know, it's through different associations, being at the BC Hotel Association or Destination BC. You know, we have a ton of our website. There's so many resources available to really ensure that you stay connected, but that you as well stay informed of what's going on in the industry right now and what kind of is it for you to need to know, so that you stay current and ready for your next step. That's kind of
Thanks, Andrea.
my 5 cents.
Thank you. Very detailed and very informative. Let's go with Joe in Toronto. Any insights from your end?
Yes,
there?
Absolutely. Colleges and universities are great at preparing workers for industry. It's what we do really, really well. Sometimes, though, there's a gap in our ability to prepare people to be entrepreneurs, and even further out, to prepare people to innovate the industries themselves. So I would encourage all of you to get out there and learn new skills, different skills, things that complement the things that you already know. Number one, so that you can stand out in the job market if that's what you decide to pursue. But number two, so that you can actually shape the industry. Believe it or not, coming out the other end of this pandemic, the hospitality and tourism industry will be completely different than it was going in. And it's really the movers and the shakers and the brave, courageous people who are willing to take chances on themselves and innovate and create that will be shaping the future of this industry. Just look at ghost kitchens, restaurant delivery apps. Think about Zoom. We're all sitting here on Zoom. Who heard of Zoom 6 months ago? If you were the Zoom people right now, you're very happy people because your business model has played out. So get out there, learn something new, challenge convention, and really don't be afraid to innovate and create. This is a really exciting opportunity for people who are brave. So get out there, don't wait, go, do it now.
Thanks, Joe, for that insight. Now, to build upon what you just mentioned, where can someone go and start doing this? Like, do they need more training? Are they just gonna go into a think tank with someone, or?
Well, it depends on what they want to do. The other thing that's really cool right now is there are a lot of these organizations that are giving out micro grants, right? So do some research, find some grants, get some very low interest loan money, and try to start new businesses. It doesn't take much to get something off the ground, but most importantly, it's about an innovative mindset. So do research. You always need to find a way to combine your passion with opportunity. So make sure whatever you're passionate about, you're also aligning it with what's on the horizon. So really it's up to you to go out and find something. Nothing is going to be delivered to your doorstep. Figure out what's really important to you, figure out the opportunities in front of you, and go find the resources you need to put those opportunities together.
Thank you, Joe. Anita, did you want to jump in there and cover off kind of between you and Joe?
What is there left to say after Andrea and Joe? They both articulated it so well. I think the only thing I would add, and thinking about my experience as a student, and then being a professional in experiencing so many global pandemics, is one of the things I did for myself as a student was I actually had a couple of mentors. Who some were my professors and some I connected with, just by sending a simple email to them and asking if they would mentor me, and I explained my position. So in that time, I would build my network, and build my own personal brand of who I am, and then also get ideas of how to be a part of the solution of whichever pandemic I was facing at the time or growing through. So I think, as Joe has said, that, innovate, get creative. We have some students I know that I'm working with right as well who are who've started up companies themselves, mainly in the digital space, and it's quite interesting to see how they've increased their digital literacy and providing, you know, companies with their mindset and where they feel the future will hold for these for our industry. So I think it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So get a mentor if you don't have one already. It's so important. And for, you know, I think David or any of us here, professionals who have a length of experience in the industry, is, you know, be open and receptive to being a mentor as well, and giving back. And I know many of you do, but it's important to share that message as well, because we are working with the brilliant future in mind.
Yeah, Anita, that's a great point. That Maddie and I had a meeting last week, and we were actually planning a event for the fall, a mentor cafe event. So linking you know, more veteran members of the industry with the students coming up, and kind of envisioning a bit of a skill exchange too, where you have the students being able to teach and mentor the older professionals as well, which would be kind of cool to go backwards. So maybe we can do something between Ontario and British Columbia there and get some mentorships going across the country. I think would be quite cool.
Thank you, everybody. So one of the next questions I had for you is, if you could provide one key piece of advice to new tourism and hospitality graduates, what would that be? One key piece of advice. And I'll start with David.
I would, okay, I can't just limit it to one. I'm going to say two. So I'm going to cheat and say two. The first one is take a risk. And so I would say that this is a very approachable industry, and people who work in this industry are passionate about it and they love it. And students are super intimidated to reach out and to talk to people in the industry who they one day aspire to have a role like that, or they might not even be able at this point in their career to envision themselves working in that senior role. So, you know, I encourage students to, you know, if you want to be the executive director of Tourism Burnaby one day, then pick up the phone and call Chris Peters, because he'll probably take your call. But so few students are willing to step outside their comfort zone and to take that risk. And so that would be number one, is to step outside your comfort zone and to stand out and to be different. And I think it's going to be more important than ever to do that. And then number two is networking. And everyone is students, they hate networking, right? They hear the word networking and they feel it's kind of dirty, and it's kind of, you know, oh, I'm going to go there and what am I going to really add value to this? And it's really about genuine connections with people. And I think to do it well and to do it honestly and sincerely, you have to make a commitment to be there. You have to be in the room, and you have to go to multiple events to start slowly making connections legitimately with people who share similar interests to you. And you know, if we go into a room of 50 people, there might only be 3 or 4 people who we really kind of connect with. And that's awesome. Like, I think that students sometimes feel that they should be connecting with, you know, everybody in the room. And that's not, I don't think, correct, really. You just need to make a few key connections, and that's super valuable. And that's success when it comes to networking. But the networking is super important.
Thank you, David. Let's see who's next. Anita. One key advice.
One key advice. Wow. Okay. So after David's, geez, be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Grow through the uncomfortableness. Right now, we're going through a historic. You know, students are part of an extraordinary time. It is uncomfortable, yes, but learn how to grow through the uncomfortableness and be comfortable with it. It's the only way you're going to grow and develop your leadership identities.
Joe, did you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Don't forget that you are a part of a huge global industry. And just like the player on a championship team is really good at playing their specific position, they also understand the bigger, broader strategies. So if you have a little bit of time, think about the industry associations. In Canada, there's the Tourism Industry Association of Canada, Restaurants Canada, Tourism HR Canada, the Hotel Association of Canada, and around the world, certainly the World Tourism Organization. Become aware of the big issues, because that adds a great value when you enter the workplace. And right now, there is so much information out there, so many resources, that you should really just be a sponge and try to plug yourself into the bigger pictures, because those will help you when you get the job that you want in the organization, if you understand the big picture and what's going on around you.
And last but not least, Andrea.
Yeah, good points made by everybody, and I totally agree. And as Anita said, be comfortable with the uncomfortable. I think be confident in your own skills and abilities, and really kind of listen to your inner voice. And I think be flexible and nimble. The opportunity you're looking for might not be necessarily in your neighborhood on your doorstep. It's an opportunity for you to look elsewhere, maybe in a neighboring community, or up north, or Vancouver Island, or kind of broaden your perspective and broaden your horizon on what's out there, and maybe not necessarily in your community. Do you have the flexibility to maybe move to a different location to take on a role where you kind of think, well, that's really what I want to do? I think the flexibility and being nimble and being able to pivot really quickly as the needs of the industry change, and as we're moving forward over the next 6 months, I think really stay with it. I think that would be my advice.
Thank you, Andrea. So we have, before we wrap up, I did have a couple of questions here in the question and answer. The first one being, are there any new opportunities that the industry would be building with any of the funding provided by the federal government? So I don't know if maybe Andrea or Joe might have some insight on this.
Andrea, I'll leave it to you. It's closer connected to the region here.
It's a really good question. I would need to get back on that top of my head, on my mind. I would not really be able to answer that, to be honest with you.
Maybe David or Anita, have you heard anything from the tourism industry or tourism associations about this, whether there's federal funding for new graduate programs?
I think from what I'm hearing from different people I'm speaking with, they're more just trying to figure out the current programs available immediately, and they are so relatively complex, and there's so many different things that people are applying for, and it's a little bit like throwing mud on a wall. So I'm not sure yet. We don't know what's sticking and what's not, and I think companies are applying to all the different programs which they can find to see what they can what's going to work. So yeah, I don't really have.
There are a couple of programs out there which are kind of a bit more employer directed, but it helps employees as well. I mean, there's the BC Employer Training Grant, where employers can take advantage of and help train their teams and cover training costs through that program. That is one of the initiatives we've been working with, but that's kind of already being in an employment rather not being with a job right now, but it's a great resource for employers to get their staff trained and help them maybe to get another certificate program or any other courses within the organization where training costs can get covered on that.
Yeah, I was going to say I haven't heard anything specific as of yet in terms of programs. I know that a lot of suppliers and employees on the industry side are being asked to support tourism recovery plans by working with their local MPs, for example, for support for the tourism industry. As obviously we are in a bit of a survival mode, but I haven't heard anything else specific as of yet. But I'd be happy to share when I do for our region.
Thank you, everybody. So there's a second question from Sean. He asks, it will be great to hear from students on the panel on what they feel is their latest skills and knowledge that they already have now that will be beneficial in this new job market. So maybe this question goes to, let's start with Maddie and kind of go Maddie and Maria and Daniel on what they feel their latest skill sets are, how they feel they're being able to tackle this new job market, and if there's anything that they feel they're missing. So maybe some of the other panelists can provide insight after too.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest skill that we probably all learned is just adaptability, being able to change what our plan is really quick to accommodate what the new situation is. So obviously all of our classes had to move to online. And for BCIT being known for a lot of group projects, that was a huge shift from what we're usually used to. So we presented to Tourism Burnaby through Zoom. All of our meetings had to be done online. The division of work was shifted a little bit because, you know, there's parts that usually you would work on together all at once, but that had to be changed a little bit. And just courses in general and learning online in general had to change a lot. And then now working from home is something that I've never done before. So, you know, we've had to learn really fast and be able to, you know, figure out how to accomplish these new things. So, yeah, I'd say adaptability is the biggest thing that we've learned.
Yeah, I think like one big skill that I feel like has been really valuable and will continue to be valuable, which I was grateful to already have a bit of, but it's been good to develop, is just Zoom presence. So I feel like a lot of us hate presenting in front of people in the first place, and a lot of people thought it'd be a lot easier over Zoom. But I feel like it's a very different type of presentation style where you're not making eye contact with your audience, like you can't really read who you're talking about, and learning how to present yourself effectively over Zoom and still be engaging, even though you're literally just sitting in front of a screen. I'm a big hand talker. I like pointing at the screen. I like walking around. I like getting people engaged. So it gets a little bit hard when I'm behind a screen. But I feel like with all of us being able to further develop that for future online interviews, future stakeholder meetings, and future webinars is super important. And I think a lot of things are going to be moving online, even after this pandemic has slowed down and we have moved back to in-person events and meetings. I think Zoom's still going to have, and online meetings are still going to have a huge presence. So I think learning how to effectively present yourself online is going to be a big one.
I agree. I think, yeah, for us in particularly, we're very adaptable. I think the ability to improvise and adapt to any situation under stress is very, it's a big cornerstone of our students. But yeah, I think to segue onto what Maria was saying I think the younger minds have it more, especially now with the COVID and everything, the online and digital marketing is very important. I feel like the online retail services like Amazon and even the company that I'm working for now is seeing record sales. It's because we sell product through online. And I think able to use that tool and optimize it the best way possible, especially with social media and influencers and stuff like that. I feel like the younger generation is more adept at that. And I feel like we're learning that the short-term costs and stuff like that are really not important as to making a customer experience and having this customer possibly be customer forever, a lifetime customer, and creating these relationships that last a long time is what we've been taught here and what's important, and will ultimately have a good impact on our businesses.
Thank you to you three. The final question I had, which will keep it nice and fun, as you know, a lot of our provinces are now opening up. So the question out to everybody, and I'll start with maybe Daniel because he just finished. What is the one thing you're most looking forward to do once things reopen up? So we're in phase 3, so things are starting to open up a lot more. What's the one thing you're dying to do?
I don't know if it's necessarily me individually, but for example, like my family and stuff, just absolutely dying to go visit relatives in international countries, stuff like that, especially with certain situations that it's been so long since the regulations have been in place, and it's changed a lot of people's plans, and just absolutely dying to go see family members and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. For me, I suppose it'd be, yeah, international travel for sure.
Maria?
Yeah.
I want to hug all my friends. That's what I'm looking for doing. I just want to hug people, and I want to be able to not wear a mask and smile at people and look friendly and not have to avoid people. And I want to pet all the dogs. That's what I'm looking forward to without having to ask everyone all the time if it's okay. That's and obviously international travel too, but I just want to pet all the dogs and hug all the people is what I want to do mostly.
Oh, Maddie?
I would say my biggest one is meeting new friends. Even just, I'm like super social whenever we go out anywhere, and I love talking to people and making new friends. And we went out to a restaurant the other day, and it was so weird having these, the plexiglass between the tables, and I was looking over and there's people sitting right next to me, but I could barely talk to them, which we did. We passed notes on our phones through the glass and made friends anyways. But it's so different than what I'm used to. It really doesn't feel the same when you're going out, and I really miss
that. Joe?
My backpack, my best friend, and traveling as long as all of my accumulated WestJet points will let me travel.
Anita?
Oh, wow. Traveling, getting in an Uber, and knowing that I'm going to the airport, getting through customs, and getting on that plane to travel around the world, wherever I'm going at that moment. I can't wait.
David?
Yeah, I definitely travel, obviously. That I was just coming back from London when this whole thing all started, and we got off the plane on Friday, March 13th, kind of going, this is probably going to be the last trip for a while. So that part. And then also just being able to teach in a classroom again and being able to see students face to face as opposed to on Zoom. Zoom's great, but I really, miss that in the fall we probably won't be able to see students in the classroom, and that's a bummer.
And Andrea?
Yeah, echo a lot of what other people said on the call, but for me, just to expand my radius of local movements and be able to go further out and go to the parks, and I love camping, so go camping, and at some point meeting people more in person, and go to events and network and talk to employers in person, and physical distancing totally fine, but just get to see people face to face, and be able to focus on these relationships outside the digital world. That's something I'm really looking forward to, I have to say.
Thank you. I do know that even for myself, I haven't taken a ferry in at least 6-7 months. So that's definitely something I'm looking forward to doing, is just hopping on that ferry, going across to the island. My family's there, so it's always nice to be able to see family again. And that's something we usually take for granted, just like going away to Vancouver Island for a weekend or something, right? But since the lockdown, there's really not that opportunity to hop on a ferry for something that's non-essential, right? So that's definitely something I think we'll see everybody kind of going out once the summer hits, is really just to enjoy and see BC, whether it's locally or whether it's, a 6-hour drive up north. But definitely encourage everybody to kind of get out there again to kind of help bring that tourism economy back up. And Seth, are you still on the call there? Maybe you can also provide your insight on what you feel you're going to do next.
Well, I mean, I actually echo what Maria said in terms of like people petting like, my dog, because like, having like a golden doodle, he has very soft fur. So the fact that people can't pet and to kind of give me that comment makes me kind of feel a little bit kind of, I'm almost missing that now, right? So that's one thing, but also, the whole travel, even within province to, like even to the island is something that, I'd like to do, but I want to make sure the local communities are feeling that I'm not kind of taking up their space. So I want to make sure that's all, going to happen. I'm hopefully here. Phase 3 is already upon us. So yeah, that's something that I want to do. How about you, Alice? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm gonna be probably traveling through BC, just doing some camping this summer, but definitely hitting the island and visiting my parents. Hopefully they're welcoming me. It's always different with seniors, I think. They're a bit more germophobic, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'll just kind of wrap up, like Allison, just to thank everyone for coming on. Maddie, Maria, Daniel, Andrea, Anita, Joe, and David. We really appreciate your kind of insights. And, I think, we've been trying to maintain this kind of virtual, but we're looking to kind of look at potentially doing some hybrid type of events as well, as we kind of move closer into July. That's kind of the goal. And I really like hearing what David talked about around the mentorship aspect, because I think that needs to really happen for the new professionals, and even the professionals that are that are going into the tourism program at BCIT. When they first start, they need to have that person to start with them in that journey, and then be that advisor for the entire 2 years. I think that was one thing that I've seen kind of working with students from time to time, is that they want someone to be there at the start and someone to be there at the end. So that's something that I think would be a great way to kind of continue that mentorship. So just again, thanks everyone for joining. Next week we're going to be doing, just a final note, a restart Zoom session. So we're going to have all our hotel general manager, our hotel leaders, come on and talk a little bit about how their properties are actually changing and how they've been adapting to kind of the new safety standards. So they're going to be showing some pictures, videos. They're going to basically going to be giving everyone that firsthand look of what they've been dealing with the last 2 months and or 3 months, and that's going to be hopefully an interesting session. So I hope everyone joins us. But yeah, thanks, Alice. I'll let you kind of end it for us. And yeah. Oh, you're on mute. Okay, I think you're on mute, Alice. There.
Let me unmute that. Sorry. So next week is actually Canada Day, so we'll be celebrating Canada's birthday. So we won't be having our session next Wednesday. The session that Seth was mentioning will be on July the 8th at 3:30. So a link will be sent out for that shortly, and Seth will be able to send that out, and just keep an eye on that. And then we'll be happy to have you join us back here on July the 8th.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to our speakers.